Ibra. About to come through, about to bust the flow. Man, you a fool, you already know. Man, I'm a pro and an amateur too. Coming up the block, what you got, fool? Got the fatty, man, I'm ready, brah. I'll be coming up like the cheddar, brah. What it do, man? Fucked up. Badass woman of Herstory. Well, I'm not gonna be able to say this name. Well, her nickname was Lady Death. Lyudmila. I'm gonna look it up. I think I got it. Lyudmila Pavlichenko. Okay, let's get further. She was born July 11th, 1916, but some say it was June 29th. It was Russian Empire, but present-day Ukraine. She passed October 10th, 1974, at the age of 58, Moscow, Russia. Her years of service for 1941, 1953. She was lieutenant in the Army, senior researcher with the rank of major in the Soviet Navy. She did 2 battles in the World War II, Siege of Odessa and the Siege of Sevastopol. She got the Hero of the Soviet Union Award. Is this the same person? Her husband's name was Alexei Pavlichenko, Alexei Konsenko. She had a kid, or kids, I don't know. Alright, she claimed to have killed 309 soldiers. So these are like probably the Nazis. Everybody's going against the Nazis. However, many feats attributed to her have been called into question by various historians, analyzing her contradictory claims and timeline of events. She served in the Red Army during the Siege of Odessa and the Siege of Sevastopol during the early stages of the fighting on the Eastern Front. I should know more about what the fuck they're talking about. After she was injured in a battle by a mortar shell, she was evacuated to Moscow. After she recovered from her injuries, she trained other Red Army snipers and was a public spokeswoman for the Red Army. In 1942, she toured the US, Canada, and the United Kingdom. After the war ended in 1945, she was reassigned as a senior researcher for the Soviet Navy. She died of a stroke at the age of 58. Early life and education. So she was born, as we said earlier, in the Russian Empire, currently in Ukraine. Her family moved to Kiev when Lyudmila was 14. As a kid, she was a self-described tomboy who was fiercely competitive at athletic activity. Whoa, tomboy. What happened to tomboy? Now, oh shit. They try to get rid of the tomboy. They're like, oh, you're not a tomboy, you're a boy. Damn. No, I don't mean any offense to anybody. It's just like, whoa. In Kyiv, she joined the shooting club, developed into an amateur sharpshooter, and earned a badge and a marksman certificate. In 1932, she married, gave birth to a son, who passed in 2007, synchronicity. He was born in 1932. However, the marriage was soon dissolved, and Lyudmila returned to live with her parents. She attended night school, as well as performing household chores. During the day, she worked as a grinder at the Kyiv Arsenal factory. What does that mean? How do I go there? Control, click. I'm so old. Now, super young. Alright, well that loads, I'm gonna keep going. She enrolled at Kyiv University in 1937, where she studied history and intended to be a scholar. I don't know why I saluted her. I know she's not. I just like history. And she intended to be a scholar and teacher. There she competed on the university's track team as a sprinter and pole vaulter. She was also enrolled in military style sniping for 6 months by the Red Army. World War II. Alright, so the Grindr thing just pulled up. And it's not Grindr like the app. Guys. Gals. Everybody, anyway. I don't know. I'm not even sure what Grindr is. I just know it's a dating app. I don't know what kind of dating app. Alright, let's take it to the left. I'm gonna go back. So World War II. There's a picture of her in the trenches. In June of 1941, Pavlichenko was age 25 in her 4th year studying history at Kiev. I think that's how you say Kiev University when Nazi Germany began its invasion of the Soviet Union. Pavlichenko was among the first round of volunteers at the Odessa. So that's where the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That's why we teamed up with them. Where she requested to join the infantry. The registrar pushed Pavlichenko to be a nurse, but she refused. After seeing that she had completed multiple training courses, she was finally accepted into the army as a sniper and assigned to the Red Army's 25th Rifle Division. There, she became one of 2,000 female snipers in the Red Army, of whom about 500 survived the war. Although she was assigned a combat role, she was issued with just a fragmentation grenade because of weapon shortages. On August 8th, 1941, a fallen comrade handed her Mosin Nagant Model 1891 bolt-action rifle. Pavlichenko then shot her first 2 enemies and proved herself to her comrades. She described the event as her baptism of fire because that was when she officially became a sniper. Pavlichenko fought for 2.5 months during the siege of Odessa and is credited with killing 187 soldiers. She was promoted to senior sergeant in August 1941, where she added 100 more kills to her official tally. At 25, she married a fellow sniper, Alexei Kitsenko. Soon after the marriage, Kitsenko was mortally wounded by a mortar shell and died from his injuries a few days later in the hospital. When the Nazis and their Romanian allies overran Odessa on the 15th of October 1941, her unit was withdrawn by sea to Sevastopol and on the Crimean Peninsula to fight in the siege of Sevastopol. There she trained other snipers who were credited with killing over 100 Axis soldiers during the battle. In May 1942, newly promoted Lieutenant Pavlichenko was cited by the Southern Army Council for killing 257 Axis. I guess that's what the Nazis were called, or allies to the Nazis. The number of soldiers Pavlichenko is credited with killing during World War I was 309, including 36 Axis snipers. In June of 1942, Pavlichenko was hit in the face with a shrapnel from a mortar shell. When she was injured, the Soviet High Command ordered for her to be evacuated from Sevastopol via submarine. They gave her good treatment. She spent around a month in the hospital. Once she had recovered from injuries, instead of being sent back to the front, she became a propagandist for the Red Army, where she was nicknamed Lady Death. She also trained snipers for combat duty until the end of the war in 1945. She came to the U.S. and she was pictured with U.S. First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt in Washington, D.C., September 1942. So the way that they did Captain America in the movie, they sent him around for propaganda that they did with her. She was sent to Canada and the U.S. for a publicity visit as part of the Soviet Union's attempts to convince the other allies of World War II to open a second front against Nazi Germany. When she visited the U.S., she became the first Soviet citizen to be received by a U.S. president, as Franklin D. Roosevelt welcomed her to the White House. Pavlichenko was later invited by First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt to tour the U.S., relating her experiences as a female soldier on the front lines. During the publicity tour, Pavlichenko was not taken seriously by the press and was referred to as the girl sniper. When meeting with reporters in Washington, D.C., she was dumbfounded by the kind of questions put to her. One reporter even criticized the length of the skirt of my uniform, saying that in America, women wear shorter skirts, and besides, my uniform made me look fat. Whoa! They also asked if she used makeup on the front line. She was described by the reporters as very blunt and unemotional in her response. How did they... Jeez Louise, we really fucked up back then in that way. Pavlichenko appeared before the International Student Assembly being held in Washington, D.C., attended the meetings of the Congress of Industrial Organizations, and made appearances and speeches in New York City and Chicago. In NYC, she was given a raccoon fur coat by Mayor Florello H. LaGuardia. Oh, I guess that's why they got LaGuardia, the airport. In Chicago, she stood before large crowds, chiding the men to support a second front. Gentlemen, she said, I am 26 years old and I have killed 309 fascist invaders by now. Don't you think, gentlemen, that you have been hiding behind my back for too long? Her words settled on the crowd, then caused a surging roar of support. The United States government presented her with a Colt semi-automatic pistol. In Toronto, Ontario, she was presented a Winchester Model 70 rifle equipped with a Weaver telescope sight, now on display at the Central Armed Forces Museum in Moscow. While visiting Canada, along with fellow sniper Vladimir Pavlichenko and Moscow Fuel Commissioner Nikolai Kravchenko, she was greeted by thousands of people at Toronto's Union Station. Friday, November 21st, 1942, she visited Coventry, England, accepting donations of 4,516 euros from local workers to pay for 3 X-ray units for the Red Army. It's pretty dope. She also visited the ruins of Coventry Cathedral and the Alfred Herbert Works and Standard Motor Factory. Peaky Blinders. No, I'm just kidding. Where most funds had been raised. She had inspected a factory in Birmingham earlier in the day. Maybe it wasn't Peaky Blinders. Having been made an officer, Pavlichenko never returned to combat, instead becoming an instructor and training snipers until the war's end. In 1943, she was awarded the Gold Star of the Hero of the Soviet Union, as well as the Order of Lenin twice. Later life. When the war ended, Pavlichenko finished her education at Kiev University and began a career as a historian. From 1945 to 1953, that's what she wanted to do all along. She was a research assistant at Soviet Navy headquarters. She was later active in the Soviet Committee of the Veterans of War. In 1957, Eleanor Roosevelt visited Pavlichenko in Moscow during a visit to the Soviet Union. Pavlichenko struggled constantly with depression because of the loss of her husband in the war. She also suffered from PTSD and alcoholism, factors that are believed to have contributed to her early death. She died of a stroke on October 10th, 1974 at 58 and was buried in WWII Cemetery in Moscow. Her son, Rostislav, is buried next to her. He passed in 2007, as we said earlier. A second Soviet commemorative stamp featuring her portrait was issued in 1976. I guess they use stamps. I guess everybody uses stamps. So she killed some fascist Nazis. Shout out to her. Alright. I'm gonna take one more break. Come back. Bust the flow. Let you go. Gotta get ready for the iPod show. Man, you know.